parts of HISA, but we're really here to talk about operations and how we're going to all get going to meet deadlines that are expected of us. I think we're in a unique position here in Kentucky. We want to lead the way with respect to participation in HISA and taking the high road. And everybody on this call, everybody in this industry around Churchill Downs is in this together. So let's all just, focus on the ball here. Let's keep our eye on the ball and let's get this thing across the goal line as quick as we can. Real quickly, I'm going to turn over to Hunter Rankin, who's going to help us with an introduction to Lisa Lazarus, who's the CEO of HISA. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks all. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'll turn it over. Go ahead and turn it over to Lisa. This is Hunter Rankin, Director of Racing, Churchill Downs. We've got Lisa Lazarus, CEO of HISA. We've got Steve Keach, who is running the technical side of things for HISA, and then a couple other HISA representatives. So Lisa, if you would go ahead and kick it off. Thanks.
Sure. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to Churchill Downs for organizing this opportunity for us to speak directly to the Kentucky Horsemen, and also for the leadership of the Kentucky Horsemen's groups. Really appreciate the fact that, today we're focusing on operations and sort of what we need to do together ahead of July 1. I just want to say a couple quick things before I introduce the other members of my team. The first is that we recognize that for some of you, this is going to seem sudden and a short timeline. And we can say about that as we sympathize with you because we're under essentially the same aggressive timelines from Congress. And these are not timelines that I set or anyone on my team set. This is what Congress said. This is what is federal law. So we are doing our very best. I promise you, we are working tirelessly to make this as simple and as smooth for all of you as we can. And we want to answer all your questions, hear your concerns about the operational side. And we promise we will do our best to answer every single question. And if we can't give you an answer today, we'll come back to you. If we can't don't have the time to answer every question today, we will find time for another call or to dialogue with you separately offline. So I really wanted to just make it clear that we come to this from a perspective of cooperation. We want to help make the industry better, not worse. We're not trying to make your lives more difficult. And we just really ask that you give us a chance to show that we can make this work smoothly and that we can transition smoothly. So with that, I want to introduce the members of my team. Steve Keach, who Hunter mentioned, is the head of technology for HISA. He's going to actually walk you through the registration process. For covered persons, that really shouldn't take more than 3 minutes for you to register. It'll be a couple more minutes if you are a trainer and have horses to register, and Steve will explain that to you. I also have John Roach on the call, who's HISA's general counsel. In case any of the questions become a little bit too legalese for me, I will call my helpline for him and give him a chance to explain. And we've also got Ann McGovern, who's the director of racetrack safety. Two other things I just want to clear up real quickly. The racetrack safety program is going into effect July 1, but many of you may know, and for those of you who don't, I will clarify. The anti-doping medication control program, the doping program, isn't going into effect until January 1, 2023. And so between July 1 and January 1, your doping programs will be managed as they've always been by your state racing commissions. Nothing will change there until January. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Steve, who will present the technical registration piece to all of you.
Hi, good morning. A pleasure to meet all of you. I think I've talked to a few of you one-on-one. I have two presentations for you today. The first one is going to be just walking through a registration process of a person registering and then a person registering a horse. This is a PowerPoint, so we can go through. I have another presentation which I developed just based on the questions we were given ahead of time, which basically talked about how do you change a responsible person, how do you change designated owner, that kind of thing, just so you can get a sense of that. And so with that, I'm going to share my screen. Should probably start my presentation first, and then I'll share my screen. There we go, share screen. And start presentation. Can everybody see the screen okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I'm starting right from ground zero here. If you go to the HISA site, you will see up in that right-hand corner, a button that tells you to register. So it's right there. The idea is you click on that. You'll then be taken to this page here, which is the, I guess the sort of general user agreement. You'll notice up in down the bottom of it, you'll see that helpline, the 1877 number. We understand that there's been some issues with people not getting their calls returned quick enough. I am just about to engage in expanding that out, as in just about. I've just returned some documents to the company that provides that service, so we'll be adding additional resources to that almost immediately to help get us through making sure you're going to get serviced better. You'll also notice up at the top the switch from English to Spanish. And so if you flip that switch up there, then the page that you're looking at will be translated into Spanish. And then if you flip it back, it'll go into English. Those two things are on every page in the registration. So you don't have to worry about writing it down, or if you start in Spanish but then want to change to English, it's easy to do, or vice versa. So I'm going to go ahead and I would click as register as a covered person. You'll be showing this agreement. You can click accept. We do confirm one more time. For those who don't like the double confirm, you can blame John Roach. And then I'm brought to this page where I enter in my number, my identification. So I've got the first name, I enter my last name, I enter my racing license number. I'll then click on the state field. A list of states will come up. I'm going to select my state, and then I will add in my birthday. So once I do that, then I'll click continue. And what it's doing, what it would do once I press continue is we go out to the ARCI database and we go out to Equibase and we try to match information from there so that we can help to verify who you are, just so that we're getting the right kinds of information. Once I get this back, I can click on the down arrow for select. You'll see a list of people there. Couple things to that we've brought to our attention, and that is, if you notice the last race date, some people are saying, hey, I raced last week. This one shows me from racing almost a year ago. The only information that we can find is based on you as an individual from Equibase. So if you've raced under a consortium, or you've raced under a stable, or you've raced under an LLC, we can't find that information, but we can find information for when you have raced individually. The same issue, we have other issues when connecting to RCI, where perhaps it's not all states use their system, and so we can't go and find that information. We've got a very bad error message, which I will say, when sometimes it'll say you're new to racing. It's not that you're maybe new to racing. We just couldn't find the records for you. We're going to change that language so that by Monday morning you'll see a different message if we can't find you in the system. So apologies about the bad wording on that error message. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose Sam because it did find me. It'll ask you to confirm that you're Sam, the horse owner. I say yes. It then presents me with states that I will choose. So I'll choose my state. Hit continue. And then you get this very long list of different roles in the industry. We struggled with whether or not we wanted to compress the list, but we also want to be inclusive. And so this is the list we have now. We are working on coming up with a better method of doing this. I don't know when we'll have that rolled out, but we've heard some feedback and we're going to get this simplified. I just don't know how soon. So I will choose here my occupation. In this case, I've checked owner. I click continue. And then I'm into the where I put in my address and contact information. So I'll type in my email address. On the next line down, there's a button or a bar there that says stable name or track name or sort of a group destination. That's for if you want to, especially for folks who may be staying on a backside or folks that are staying at a particular stable. If you type the name in there, if we have that information, we'll pre-populate everything from that. You'll also notice in a lot of these situations, we try to use auto completes, meaning as you start to type, it'll start to populate the field so you don't have to type the whole thing in. I typed BEL and you see how it popped up 2 names. If I wanted to choose one of those names, I would just click on it in the list. In the country field, if you click on the country field, you'll see the list for US, Canada, or Mexico. If you begin to type United or United States, it should then populate that and fill it in with the USA. Now that I've selected the USA, again, you're seeing this idea of the auto-populate. I started to type my street address, and it'll then show you all the various street addresses that match to that. If you're staying at an apartment or you're using one of those PO boxes, say from a UPS store, one of those, you would type the street address of the building, and then you would go to the line above and type in that box or unit number. So if you were at Suite 22, you would at 1200 Rock Island, then you would select that particular street, and then you would go say, hey, I'm in Suite 22. So once I would click and select on that address, it fills in. I click continue. I then am given to the password page. Some of you have run into issues on the password page. I absolutely understand. We found an issue. I won't belabor the explanation now, but later on during the Q&A, I will give you the details. The fix will be pushed out on Monday. In the meantime, you can create any password, but please omit the hash symbol and the percentage, because depending on where it is in the password, it could get rejected. So if some of you have had that issue, apologies. There's a bulk email going out to those who've had that issue to explain it to them. So I would then enter in my passwords, click continue, and then you get this screen that says, hey, welcome to HISA. The couple pieces of information you're going to want to note on this. The first is your HISA number. A lot of the times when you'll be interacting with folks, there'll be people asking for the HISA number. That lets us look up information quickly, and your username, which you'll see down there as that little number beside the username. When we also send you an email, which gives you this information as well, so hopefully you can have a copy of that. And once I've done that, I can then log in. I pressed on the login page there. It took me to the screen. One of the big issues that we have had with, one of the issues that people have had with our system has been they type in their email address under username and not the username. If you type your email in, you may get an error message like the user can't be found. So you need to type in your username, which was the one that came on the last screen and the one we emailed to you. So once I type that in and click login, I'm presented with this screen. I'm going to go register some horses. I would click on the register horses button. Again, an agreement would come up. I can agree to that. I then confirm my agreement, and now I can enter horses. You enter a horse by beginning to type in the horse name. Here I'm typing in Smarty. What we can tell you is it usually takes about 3 letters for people to get close to the horse that they're looking for. There's a lot of horses out there, so one of the things you might want to do when you're typing those 3 letters is just give it 1 Mississippi, and then the list will come up. Once you see your horse on the list, you can then click on the horse. And what'll come up is we'll go out to the Equibase system, pull back some information on it. And then from that, you would then click select and you would select the horse. We present the full information and the dam name, just again to have a confirmation of this. I click yes. Again, you'll see how the year of birth and the dam got filled in. I click OK. We do the double OK just to give people a chance if they've maybe clicked a little too quick. And once I click OK, then I'm taken to the designated owner screen. And I know there's been a series of questions I certainly saw in the pre-document. And I'm sure there'll be some answers from Lisa and John about this and Ann. In the meantime, from a user perspective, if you know the name of the person who will be the designated owner, you can type the name in here and it will autocomplete. Or you can simply click, you can also email the designated owner if you know their email address, but they haven't registered yet. Or I can type it the name in if the person has registered. And here, once I think it's Bobby Sticks, I can click OK and I go to the next screen. If you were to just click OK and not worry about filling in the designated owner name, then the person registering and the person would be both the responsible person and the designated owner. And my second presentation, I will show you how you can change responsible people and designated owners. Once I get to this screen, I can start to type in my location. Again, I'm going to autocomplete by typing in, start typing the name. This time I put them at Belmont. Click OK. And now I'm presented with the vaccine and health history. This page will be, is an optional page. You're not required to fill this out. We are working with folks from the Jockey Club to be able to pull this information in automatically from Encompass. But right now, if you have the information, please enter it. If you don't have the information, that's okay. You can just click continue and you can add it later after the horse has been registered. I click continue, and now it'll just confirm, do you want to be Smarty Brown's responsible person? Yes, I do. Smarty Brown's is then added into your list of horses. And if I wish, I can register another horse, or I can just go back to the main screen. And that's the basic process. I'm just going to stop here for a sec, unshare my screen, and I'm not sure how we're doing Q&A, but maybe there's a couple questions we could take just while that's fresh in people's minds. Not sure how we're doing questions.
So questions are welcome in the chat box. If that helps expedite that process, I'm happy to formulate those and push those through. Or if someone does have a question, you're welcome to jump in, but the chat box might be the simplest way.
If we accidentally put the wrong owner on a horse, how do we change it?
Okay, that sounds like a great invitation to show you the next presentation. So here we go.
Working.
I just want to know that I didn't pay anyone. I've never met these people before. I feel like one of those magicians. And I will do my best to go. Oh, sorry, I probably haven't shared my screen yet, so everyone's sort of looking at what is he going to show us? Here you go. So you guys can see that screen. And let me go here on the slideshow because I've got some fancy screens to show. My apologies that this looks a little busy. I took these right out of the technical specs because I just wanted to make sure that I was walking you through the whole story. So this, did you, the gentleman who asked that question, did you want me to start with changing the designated owner or changing a responsible person?
Designated owner.
Designated owner. So here's the designated owner change screen. So the first step, of course, I'm going to assume that someone's logged in. So the first step is I would click on the My Horses screen, on the My Horses button. Once I've done that, I'm going to get my list of horses. Once I've got that list of horses, sorry, so let me go back to that. I'll click on this view button right here. When I've got the view button, I get the detail horse screen. On the detail horse screen beside this, you'll see these little 3 icons here. If you click on that, you get a menu. Once I see that menu, oh, sorry, which screen am I on?
Where did you click to get the menu?
The 3 little buttons right here. Let me go back there. So it's these little buttons right up here.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
Yeah, we're certainly taking feedback on people to say, hey, can you come up with an easier interface? We find that when people first look at this, it can look a little daunting, but then 1 or 2 times they're like, oh, I like it now. We are going to be building what I would call a step-by-step wizard for these things. I just don't know if we'll get that done for July 1st.
I'm not getting the same screen you are.
No, I absolutely. I was, thanks for that. This screen is going to go into effect on Monday. I didn't want to, on Monday, this is the way the screen will end up looking. That's why I wanted to present this one today. Yeah. So yeah, great question. Cause, we're working as fast as we can. You will see in the screen you're looking at a change trainer, I think we called it take back, share, unshare, but we've added in the change owner.
Okay.
So once I click on the change owner, you'll get this box up, which will say, hey, someone's going to be the new designated owner. I fill the person's name in there. What happens is we send a message to them through our messaging system. And by the messaging system, we put a record into a database. We so that people can read it on the HISA portal. We also send an email out saying, hey, you should go check your messages on the HISA portal because someone is, wants you to be the new designated owner. Once that person, so now what I've done, so let me just go back for a sec. You'll see up here, I was the current designated owner during that path. And down here, I'm going to be the new designated owner. So the new designated owner logs in, clicks on the notification screen, clicks on, they'll see in the screen here, he's got, hey, there's a horse change owner message. When they click on the view message or that view button there, up comes this message saying, hey, I'm going to change the owner. Do you accept the fact that you're about to become the new designated owner? Then you click accept. Messages go into the message system and we update the designated owner field on the horse.
How long do they have to do that after you change it?
Right now, we haven't, well, as far as changing it, it doesn't change until they either accept or reject. So until this new owner down here hits the accept button, you're still the designated owner. If the question is about claiming, we have a bit of a different process for claiming, and there'll be a screen, which I don't have the flow in front of you to show you today, but there'll be something that the claiming clerk will use to just instantaneously change the designated owner.
If a horse is claimed from us, then we don't have to do anything, correct? That's all done by the racing office?
Yep, correct.
So Steve, if I could ask a couple of the questions that I see in the chat. Obviously partnerships are a big part of this. So the first question I've gotten is, if there's 5 people involved in the horse, do all 5 have to be HISA registered is the first question. And then the second question is, what if the designated owner never accepts the notification?
So on the first one, I'm going to let John explain that one because that's more of a legally thing. Who needs to be registered?
I can just quickly
Oh,
step
sorry.
in, and then if John, no, it's okay. Thanks, Steve. So with regards to the designated owner there only needs to be one designated owner to take responsibility for the horse, and you can decide amongst yourselves who that's going to be. We do want everyone, all owners to register. But with regards to sort of the initial enforcement piece, et cetera, really, we're going to be focusing on the designated owner. John, do you want to add anything to that?
I would just add that if your owner is not licensed because they own such a small percentage, they're not required to be licensed, they do not have to register. So, you know, so there's two things. There's the designated owner that you're going to put in on the cover when you're registering your horse, but then your owners, if they're licensed, they need to go and register and go through that 3 or 4 minute process.
And to the second question about what if the new designated owner doesn't take responsibility, I can only speak from a technical perspective is then the existing designated owner will stay until that's been accepted. I would have to turn back to some other folks to figure out what they want the business process to be. Again, from a technical perspective, it's not a big deal to put something in that just forces things or does things. But I'm not sure what the process is, so I'll turn it back to the business people for that.
John, do you want to explain that one?
Well, I think one of the things that hopefully everybody, this will be a bit of good news. Any of those situations, so that's going to be handled the same way. So let's say somebody goes to enter a horse on July 1st and they're not registered. The horse isn't, the trainer isn't, there's something there. The racetracks are going to be allowed to take that entry. And then the office is going to be able to say to you all, hey, you've got till scratch time to go spend 2 minutes to make sure this covered horse is registered. So if there's a mix up on the on anything as it relates to the covered horses, you're going to have a couple of days to try to fix that in between the entry time and the scratch time, which in a lot of jurisdictions is going to give you a couple of days. You should go ahead and get all the registration done. It's important to get it done before July 1st, but we understand that this is a new system. This is new technology. So we are not going to stop anybody from entering. You'll have a couple of days to then go back and get it taken care of if something's fallen through the cracks.
Did that answer the question about what happens if, I just wanted the person who asked the question, what happens if someone doesn't accept? Do they feel they got their question answered? No. That's a good, that's clear. So from a technical perspective, we can write a screen where somebody could go in and enter in the fact that a designated owner should be changed. I'm just not sure what the sort of regulatory or business process would be to make that happen. Because essentially we have a mechanism because of the claiming to do that. I'm not sure what the process would be if it's say someone just being belligerent.
Yeah, no. So basically, Steve, I mean, my understanding perspective on that, and John may have something to add, is that really that's an individual negotiation. So ultimately, the horse really, shouldn't change hands, or you should, build in whatever precautions you want to build in as a seller to make sure that part of the process when you actually sell your horse is that there's an acceptance of the responsibility. There'll be we'll have a mechanism in place if there's really a problem for you to raise that with us and for us to try to deal with it from a regulatory perspective. But obviously the easiest way to deal with it would be just to build that into the sales process. But if it's not possible, we will help you.
Okay.
So Steve, let me throw something else out there. Wouldn't you be able to send, or could we build a message back to the first owner saying it hasn't been accepted to make them aware that it had been accepted?
Oh yeah, well, so I tried to simplify these processes. As you can imagine, there's lots of what if this, that. So what happens when a person actually clicks accept? There's a message that goes into that message bucket that you saw, and an email goes to you saying that they accepted. If the person rejects, you also get a message saying that they rejected. So that all of that is tracked, and you get notified on either side.
And Steve, will that be a can't race flag for the racing office at entry time also?
The
Or no?
old, as far as a can't race flag, we look at only the regulations on, are people registered, is the horse on the vets list, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But as far as, hey, there's an outstanding acceptance of a designated owner or responsible person change, that currently is not built into the system at all.
I got one question via text along these same lines. If you're a horseman and you're setting your designated owner of a horse, will it populate if your owner isn't registered, or does your owner have to be registered before you can make them a designated owner?
The owner has to be registered before you can make them a designated owner. But part of that is the reason we have that email button there on the screen that you could click on to send them a notice to say, hey, go get registered. One of the folks we work with at HISA actually got an email from their trainer saying, hey, you need to go get registered. So, which I thought was a very fun thing to see. So you do have to be registered as a designated owner. From a practical standpoint, from talking to trainers, etc., I've seen a lot of trainers register, take the role of responsible person and designated owner, and then so that they could get the horses entered, and then they'll go back and change the designated owner to the correct person.
And Steve,
good-
can I ask, I think also, doesn't it default to the trainer if they
It does.
don't-
So if you're registering and you get to that screen, sorry, let me share my screen so I'm not just waving my arms in the air.
And while Steve is doing that, you would want to, if you have a stable of 40 horses with several, with 40 different owners, I'd recommend that you suggest to your owners on your behalf to please register. It'll save you some time.
That's a long difference, right?
So if
Can everyone just
The
not
only
talk and
one
put
that
themselves on
looks,
mute, please? That would be really
like
helpful.
It could be tough is, well, maybe.
We're
these
hearing
two,
other
but this one
conversations.
was. Yeah, these guys, because look at this horse improved so much.
So
Yeah,
if you're
this was
if you're
actually
on
the
this
same
screen
race.
here and you just
But this
click
horse has been
OK,
improved, like, just getting
then what
better.
you'll end up with is
And this horse
it'll
too,
just
this is
fill
just
you
big
in.
jump. The thing about
The
this
person
race,
who's
though,
doing the
they both
registering,
love it.
it'll just
Look
fill
how
you in
smooth
as
this is.
the designated owner.
Look how slow they
Hopefully that
are.
helps.
Eric, can you mute everyone that's not a speaker?
Right?
Well, it's
Steve,
too
you're
bad
gonna
I-
have to unmute.
You
Hey,
muted
that's
everyone.
okay. That was the smartest thing I said all day in that 4 to 4 seconds right there. So, so I know I flipped back and forth there, but on that one screen in that step where it said you want to put in your designated owner, if you just click OK and move on, it'll make the person registering also the designated owner.
If I can just say one more thing, just to everyone is aware, this is a one-time registration. It's not an annual registration and has no actual connection to your state license. The only reason why we ask for a state license number is that we're trying to make the whole process easier for you. And if you give us a state license number, we can go into the ARCI system, whatever system, and help pre-populate your information. If you don't want to do that, you can just add it yourself, but we're just trying to make the user experience better. But there's no actual connection between your state registration and your HISA registration. It's a one-time registration, a one-time number. Once you do it, unless something dramatically changes, you never have to do it again. And that number stays with you forever. So it really is, if you're just registering yourself, a 5-minute or 3-minute process, and then you're really done.
Okay, when I registered my horses a couple of days ago, my owner wasn't registered yet, but it allowed me to put his name in
Yeah.
as the designated owner.
It did?
Yes.
Can I
Maybe
get
somebody
the-
else had already registered him. Maybe, does he own more than?
No, because I called and had them do it.
Hmm.
Actually put 15 horses in with 4 different owners. I don't think any of them were pre-registered until after I put the horses in.
Okay, if possible, and you don't have to do it on the call here, but if you could get me the list of those horses, I just want to see what happened, to make sure that everything's okay. Because
Yeah.
it shouldn't have. I'm wondering if perhaps it maybe still puts you as the responsible person as opposed to putting them as the designated owner. So I just want to check that out, because that you shouldn't have been able to do that. So my apologies if that's exactly what happened. I believe what you're telling me. I just need to figure out why.
Okay, how would I get hold of you?
I'll get you, Neil. I'll take care of it.
Okay,
Somebody, somebody asked, I think Maria was asking about whether or not, you need to enter more than one license. I think there's 2 answers to that question. So when you're going through the registration process and just essentially putting in your personal details at the beginning, you can enter in any license number. It's just, that is just to help us figure out who you are, to make your input time, shorter and to make it less of a difficult or less onerous process for you. There's later though, there's a separate box that asks you to check all the states that you're registered or licensed in. And then when you get to that screen, you should check all the states you're licensed in. You don't need to provide the numbers, just for us to know, where you're licensed.
Okay, one more question on that topic. Am I putting in a stable name or a person's name? So if it's, John Smith LLC, am I typing in his, licensed registered stable name or the individual person himself?
Is this on registration or designated owner? Just want to clarify.
Designated owner.
On the designated
So
owner, it's the individual person's name.
that has the license. So Claiborne Farm would be Seth Hancock, and that you search for Seth Hancock, not Claiborne Farm.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Question, are we able to, as a service to our clients, help them register or do their registration for them?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll do a
Anybody
lot.
that's good at it, we welcome that and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll probably do a lot of that ourselves. Okay.
Hey, Kenny, just make sure, helping is good. Just make sure, since you're saying, I think if you had an email permission from them to do it, that would be good. Just make sure you got you have some authority or permission to do it for them, and that'll be
Probably
fine.
send an email with we probably send them an email telling them we're planning on doing it unless they have an objection.
Yeah.
Something to that.
It's unlikely. I mean, we're not going to be asking you for that. I just think just because of the way the process works, just make sure you've got permission. And if you want to assist them on that and you've got permission, you're good.
Okay, sounds good.
would authorized agent
Ken-
classify as permission?
Sorry, could you say that again, sir?
If your license is an authorized agent, would that classify as permission?
It probably does, but I would, just for purposes of top of my head today, I think it would be a better practice for you to get specific permission to register them.
Okay,
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks to Kenny for the help he gave me in the beginning. Hopefully I took at least some of it to heart when we put this together. So I very much appreciate the help he gave me in the beginning.
No, you're welcome. Where do I send the invoice?
I think it's to
You
John
know,
Rhodes. He's over there. He just. So I'm out of PowerPoint slides. Well, that's not true. I've got some additional PowerPoint slides, but it's very repetitive, meaning when you change a trainer, it's the same kind of process. You click on the horse, you click change trainer, up comes a box, you type the trainer name in, messages go to different people. If just by a couple people, is that worthwhile going through? I want to make sure that we're using your time most productively.
I think you'd be better off if we go through whatever other questions you have, just to make sure that we get to questions.
Okay.
And then if any of those questions, call for those PowerPoints, we can call them up.
Perfect. Okay.
Gary, do you have a list of the rest of the questions?
I do. So here's a couple. So let's switch gears to, horsemen registering their staff or our backside workers. So a couple of the questions we've gotten, and I think it's worth sort of you guys talking through, is I think our trainers are thinking of this as they have to register their employees, but I think it's up to everyone. Every employee on the backside should be registering themselves. Ultimately, it's not necessarily about registering your employees. Is that the case? And then a follow-up question is, are people allowed to use the same email or phone number when registering their stable help?
I could, sorry, Lisa, I'll take the second one because that one's
Yeah,
easy.
let me take the second one first and I'll take the first one.
Okay, so the second one is, yes, you can have multiple people on the same email, same phone number, same address.
And the first question was whether or not trainers have to register their employees.
Yeah.
More so just obviously everyone needs to be registered. It's not necessarily on the trainer to register every member of their team, but they need to encourage their staff.
Correct.
do it
There's no
for help.
consequence. There's no legal consequence or enforcement consequence on the trainer if an employee doesn't register. There may be a consequence on the employee depending on, what activities they have to engage in and where they want to be and go and all of that.
We were doing our help ourselves, one individually, but a lot of them, their address is Churchill Downs, 700 Central Avenue.
That's fine.
We were having trouble getting that to go through.
It is, okay, can you, Churchill Downs should be in there. If I type Churchill Downs in the location field, does it not come up?
I don't know. My assistant was doing it, to be honest with you. That's just where she said she had the problem.
Churchill may have two addresses.
700.
Why don't you just have her contact Steve separately, and we can put his contact information, his email in the chat.
Okay.
So somebody was asking about a horse being scratched. A horse will only be scratched if it or the trainer is not registered. So, and that's only what we tried to build in was kind of a safety mechanism for you in these early months, which is you can enter a horse, but when you enter a horse in a race, the racing office will get a flag that says can't race. They will then reach out to you and say, you're in the race, but you got to get this done by start time, by race time, or else you're scratched. And hopefully, based on most racing calendars, that'll give you a couple days at least to do it. And that will, that will essentially be the warning. But if you actually get to race time, it's the trainer and the horse that have to be registered. Or if there's no trainer, the owner and the horse. There has to be one responsible person and the horse.
And if your jockey isn't registered by scratch time,
Yes, sorry. You're right.
you'll have to have a rider change, which you guys may not want, but.
One other question, on young horses, so we buy a lot of yearlings. Are you only able to register these horses once they turn 2? Or let's say you buy a yearling, do you immediately register? And then designate for them?
So you don't have to register a yearling. You're welcome to, if it just makes it easier for you from an administration process. There's no downside. But you don't have to, a horse doesn't have to be registered until it either has its first thoroughbred race or its first published timed workout.
It would be great if the horse had a name, though.
Yes, so we did get that question. So there are unnamed horses that are on the grounds breezing, unnamed 2-year-olds, and the system does not allow you to search by dam's name, I believe is how we identify those horses that are unnamed at this time. So that's one we can take offline, Steve, and try to figure out. Horses might have 6 or 7 or 8 breezes published before they actually are named. So
Okay.
I can circle back with you on that one, Steve, and report back to the group.
Okay, yep, that sounds good. Can I share my screen real quick? And I'm only just thinking for Lanny because he had the question about the Churchill Downs address, and I'm just bringing it up because I'm sure there's lots of people going, "Hey, can we?" This is going to come up. This is the live production system. Oh, this is the live production system here. And if you see this field here called location name, if I start to type Churchill Downs, I'll see that just by clicking on that name, it fills the rest of them out. One of the, so from a standpoint of you kind of speed things up, that's the kind of thing that you can do. So I just want to point that out. We probably haven't, we haven't done a good enough job explaining that. So my apologies, but for folks moving forward, that's how you can get that done. So hopefully that answers the question, but please, if your assistant needs help, yeah, let her know that I can get in contact.
I see that we have a question about, somebody just asked a question about trainers inputting information, and I also saw that we had that in some of the other earlier questions. Trainers you all are not responsible for inputting through the technological system or any kind of providing of information and data to HISA. You're required under the rules to maintain certain records that have to be available for inspection. It's the vets that'll have to do the inputting, but as it relates to your records, you just need to maintain them. The safety rules set forth what you are to maintain. You all are not required to do any type of daily inputs or anything like that.
You will be required, however, if the horse is claimed, and I'm sure we're going to get into that with Steve in a minute, but if a horse is claimed, you are responsible for making a copy of those records and giving them along with the veterinary records to the new trainer or the trainer of the claimed horse. So we are asking for you to maintain those, and if HISA happens to be and you need to be able to make them available to HISA if we ask.
What exactly do we have to give to the new trainer? The vet records and what else?
Vet records and training records.
Okay, for how long?
30 days, I believe.
Yep,
Okay.
it's 30 days generally. There's a 60-day piece, but I think that has to do if the horse was off grounds at a training center. But if they're on the grounds, it's 30 days.
Can you clarify what training records means? Is it this horse jogged on May 5th, or is it, can you just give a little more description as
Sure.
to what the ask is?
If you're a trainer getting a horse, whatever records you think would be necessary, but in our minds, you know, the big board on the end of everyone's shed row that has the horse's name and jog, worked, all that good stuff. If he had a supplement in his feed, did he hand walk that day? You know, what did you do on the horse? Do with the horse on a daily basis?
Appreciate that. Thank you for this.
Sure.
Have a good weekend.
Did that answer? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I just wanted further clarification.
Sure. You could take a picture of that board and put it in a file every day, but then you'd have, you know, all your horses on it. You may not want to give that information, but if that's what you want to do, that would be fine too.
All right, I'm just looking through other questions that have been submitted. Anyone have anything out there? Steve, do you want to run through the vaccination page by chance? That just sort of looks at that piece of it.
On the registration side or on the, if I want to update it side?
So we have questions. I've gotten questions about, you know, how to go in and change your vaccination standards. The part about the rabies vaccine that's on there and that page.
Okay, so just give me a second. I'll log into basically the system that we showed people yesterday. So again, this functionality will be available on a Monday.
And then another question while you're working on that is, what about daily oral medications, for example, GastroGuard? Is that something that a vet would input or a record that a trainer would keep?
Actually, both. If it's a prescription, the vet would go ahead and have that in the records that he prescribed this for what a particular horse or the entire stable, whichever. And then if the trainer administered it, that would be in the trainer's records. Part of today's protocols for the horse included GastroGuard or a warmer or any other product that vet may have given him to administer or her. So that's going to end up coming up twice.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just logging in. It's just refreshing now that I've got all the all my video, all my bandwidth was going to the video and sound here. So can you guys see the screen okay? That's a yes?
Yep, got
Okay.
it.
So sorry, I'll go back. So I'll click on my horses here. You'll see it do its thing. I've got a list of horses. I'm going to click on one of them. I'm hoping this one doesn't have all their, sorry, this one has all their vaccinations and etc. So you'll see this health section here. Again, you'll see these 3 dots. The nice part is we try to be very consistent on the menu types. I'll click on the 3 dots. I'll click add. I'll see this here. If I've got a vaccine, I'll click a vaccine, type in a vaccine name. I don't know, rabies.
Sure.
I'll get the date when that was delivered and click save. And so that screen will refresh, and then that vaccine has now been added. So there it is down there. So that's how you would enter in vaccines. Right now, the options that we have in here are for the health inspection, any tests, specifically we were thinking of Coggins, and then the vaccines themselves. This view detail screen, when you see it on Monday, it's not the best. That's going to be changing in the next week or so to give you a little bit more detail, but this is what we have now on the horse health record. Is that Gary, does that give you the answer, or was that good, or do you need a little more detail there?
I think it helps as Coggins are updated and vaccines are updated, just showing how to go into an individual horse and do that. Eric, you have your hand up. Excellent Microsoft Teams etiquette. You have a question?
Thanks, Gary. Thanks everyone too for putting this together, and just so everyone's aware on the call, we did put together a list of questions, and I'm assured from John Roach that we'll get them all answered at some point, many of which based off of registration. The team here at HISA is answering them. Granted, there are still a lot of questions, Gary, Mike in particular, when the implementation occurs. So there's a lot of questions that were in my list that'll go towards that. But one of the questions that I wanted to kind of highlight, because I keep getting asked that, is very clearly in section 210 on definitions, when it talks about a covered horse, it mentions when a horse is nominated. And for me, nominations occur very early for Breeders' Cup. Nominations occur very early for Triple Crown. Many of the state bred races occur very early. So by my interpretation of how the act actually, or the regulations from the act actually read, that would mean that they would need to be registered. So along those same lines, an official workout is official at a 2-year-old sale. So there is some lack of clarity and certainly maybe some explanation in the semantics of the words that you're choosing that are causing some trip ups. So I would like to maybe address the nominations and then address why is an official 2-year-old breed show not considered not considered an official work. So let's start.
Hey, Eric, those are great questions. I've got of your 36 questions. During the call, I've got 12 already answered in writing. And on that question, we'll respond to that as well. So let me tell you, the nomination language is confusing. We're only interpreting that to say nominated for a specific race. That definition is going to be changed when the drug rules go into effect, and it's going to be dropped completely, and it'll only be official time workout and entry in a race. The whole nomination thing will be, that concept will be taken out. It was quite frankly, was a definition that USADA was using that at that point, we didn't have a lot of input on. So for purposes of enforcement, no one will be jeopardized for not registering their horse on like a Breeders' Cup nomination or a Stallion Series in Indiana. And we're going to put that in writing, Eric, so that everybody will know that. Your questions about that to me previously have been spot on and have made me realize we need to fix the definition, which we're going to make clear in the medication and anti-doping drug rule definitions, that they're going to supersede the previous definition. It's going to be a lot simpler and plainer. And as it relates to the 2-year-old in training question, we just have to agree to disagree with that. We do not believe that the 2-year-old in training times we don't consider them official published workout times. So we are not requiring those horses to be registered. There is nothing that prevents those horses from being registered as covered horses, but and we're going and we'll, to the extent people need that in writing, that's where we've been. We've made that statement before, and we'll continue to kind of think about that. But as of the enforcement dates and the registration requirements, that's where we're landing.
Do you think then, John, just going to the next question in 23, breeders?
I'd only gotten to your question 14, so I haven't gotten to that one yet. Okay.
Well, it's a similar question, and maybe you're answering it by, you guys are going to now change some definitions, which again are not changed on the act, but you're changing in the regulations.
Yeah, because Eric, let me interrupt you. I think the definitions for covered horse in our regulations need to be the same one that are in the act. So that's why we're going to change that. And as it relates to these nominations, we're going to have a very narrow view of that. And it would only apply is, let's say you've got here's a perfect example. I think I've come up with it. I assume whatever that 2-year-old race around Thursday of Derby week at Churchill Downs used to be called the WHAS Stakes. Let's say that, I can't imagine it happened, but somebody nominated to be in that specific race, and they hadn't had a race or a timed official workout. In that situation, they would need to register the covered horse. But that's the only situation that would come up.
Okay. Then also in the definitions, there is some clarity that may need to be given when it talks about breeders. That's also in the definition. So again, maybe it's question 23 when you get a chance.
Yeah. And Eric, what my plan is I'm going to come up, I'd say out of those 36, 30, I'll be able to respond to in writing. I'm going to circulate them to our team because I know that you wanted some of that stuff in writing. And over the weekend, I'll try to get that done and then send you what I can. And then you and I, to the extent you want to, we can talk about the questions I didn't answer and kind of walk through them together. But I thought it'd be helpful for you to have that stuff in writing because I think you've been on me about getting you that, and I think you're entitled to it. So I think that might make things easier.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All right, there's a couple more questions in the chat. How does this work when the horse comes back and forth from a layup farm? Does the responsible is the trainer, should the trainer change the responsible person to the then farm owner? And then do any of those folks working on the farm also need to be registered? And then it looks like Kenny's team has a question about medical and surgical records transferring at the time of a claim.
And
Sure.
why don't you handle the first and third question?
Got it.
I will give the straight answer on the farm employees. If the farm employees are licensed by the Kentucky Racing Commission and they have contact, it's a significant part of their job duties with thoroughbred horses, they would need to be registered with us. If they are not licensed, they do not have to register with us. No one that is not licensed has to register with us. And you get the tough questions, 1 and 3.
Sure. If the farm manager is a registered person and the owner is comfortable with making them the responsible person, that can happen if the horse is going to be there for some time. If not, the trainer would remain the responsible person and be responsible for getting the records, the treatment records, and getting the exercise records from the farm manager if the farm manager is not the responsible person. I think that might have been a little convoluted, but did that make sense? Or do you want me to try that again? So.
I think you need to try that again, Ann.
Okay, so the
We're-
trainer, the responsible trainer that's sending the horse to the layup. Okay, if the layup farm manager or a trainer at the layup farm is a licensed and registered person, the owner can switch responsible person to that person. If there is no one at the farm that is a licensed registered person, the owner can take responsibility for the horse or the trainer keeps that responsibility. And I think it really depends on the length of time that the horse is not with the original trainer. If they're going to a layup farm for 2 months and they're trying to recuperate from an injury, then I would guess that most trainers want to transfer responsibility back to the owner. If they're going for a couple of weeks to give them a break, or they need to change a stall out, then I would think the current trainer would want to maintain the responsible person position.
And if I could piggyback on that to add another
Sure.
question that we've been given, I think the same, if I interpret correctly, the same is going to apply if Bobby Barnett sends a horse to Root and Riddle to get a chip taken out of a knee and he's there for X amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
He, Bobby Barnett, or the owner are going to be the responsible person and have to input all of the data that is done at Root and Riddle, correct?
Yes, or whoever their vet is can gather that information for them and put it in their records. But yes, a responsible person will need to make sure that information is put into the system. They don't have to personally do it. They can ask the vet to do it, their own attending vet to do it.
Okay.
Follow-up question on that via text here. What is the responsible person situation of a horse that's going to be retired? So, horses leaving the racetrack, do I take them out of registry? Do I move them to an organization that handles that? What is the process for the retirement portion of that?
Sure. Any horse that's been retired prior to July 1st, you don't have to do anything with them. If they're retired and not racing, that's fine. If a horse has been registered and becomes retired after July 1st, their status in the system needs to be changed. And I'm going to throw it back to Steve and be sure that there is a button on the horse's page that can be clicked to say this horse has been retired.
We will absolutely.
I think you guys need to say retired from racing, right? Because retired could
Sure.
be the broodmare ban. So you guys have got
Sure.
to be more specific about what you're talking about.
That's
Okay,
fine.
So yes, you will have a button that says retired
From racing.
from racing.
Now-
Let me ask, because this is, access to the people who got to deal with this. If I was, as the responsible person, click on the button that says retired from racing, should I notify the designated owner, and should the designated owner be
Yeah,
identified?
we can talk about that. Let's talk about that internally. I imagine
Okay.
we can let these
Sorry about that.
Sure,
It's just
I'm
exciting
sure
to
some
talk to
folks
the
are getting
youngsters.
about had enough of us, so we'll,
Agreed. Sorry about that.
no, that's okay. Everybody should know that on the retirement of horses, when the medication protocols come into effect on January 1st, there are specific rules about retirement and coming back. And we've added some exceptions that allow you to kind of demonstrate that I think the rule says you have to stay out a certain amount of time once you say you're retired. But let's say it was a stallion, it turned out couldn't cover mares. We didn't want somebody to be stuck to not be able to get that horse back to the track. So there's a whole mechanism set forth in the rules to try to deal with those situations as well. But when the medication rules come into effect, the consequence of retirement has impact in terms of the anti-medication, the medication and anti-doping protocols. Those don't go into effect July 1st. That's January 1st. But just to give everybody a heads up.
I have a question regarding the prohibited practices. It talks in 2271. There's a discussion about electrical, medical, therapeutic devices that may produce analgesic effect within 48 hours of a training activity or the start of a published post time. Obviously, we have most of those already in place for post time. Definition of training activity. I'm going with that is a timed workout rather than daily training, but just needed clarification on that. We've had several questions regarding that specifically.
I'm going to go ahead and put this in writing for John after I completely confirm it with the vets on our committee. But the intention is that the horse doesn't work or breeze or have a timed work, that they can go gallop, they can train, but a timed workout or a really fast breeze would not be what the intention is, that they don't do that. But I think I need to clarify that in writing from the vets on our committee.
Yeah, this training activity is very vague.
Yes, but it's not meant to stop a horse from going out and jogging around the track or galloping around the track and getting his legs stretched. But it is meant to not have them work. So let me clarify that language, and we'll put that on Eric's list.
So I don't personally have any other questions, and I'm not sure I see any in the chat.
Well, and if anyone, I'll put my email address in the chat, and there are a lot of people on this call that know where to find me. Some I wish couldn't find me, but they all do. And there's my email address. If anybody has any questions, I will direct them to the appropriate person in the HISA. And let me just say, as Lisa emphasized, we know this is a brave new world. We really appreciate you all taking the time to listen. This has actually been an outstanding call. We really appreciate everybody asking the questions, and we will continue to work with you. If you have any questions, let us know. We know we're going to make mistakes. We just do. We're dealing with a really tough timeline. I probably shouldn't have used the word insane timelines on the Pollock report this morning. That are now all over the internet because it was kind of taking a shot at Congress. But we know we're going to make mistakes. Let us know. We'll talk to you. We'll figure it out. We'll work collaboratively with you. And I hope that you all, even when we disagree about things, that we will listen and try to do the right thing.
And Gary, if I didn't say one more thing, that was such a good wrap up, John. I am so sorry to step on it. That was perfect, but I did want everyone to know that there is a trainer's fact sheet out there. And if you haven't seen it, Gary, do you have a copy of that you can send to everybody on the call?
I do. So I've emailed that once. A couple folks have asked if they could see Steve's PowerPoint. So what I can do as a wrap up on this is send out the fact sheets one more time. Steve's PowerPoints and John's email. If I have your permission to include that to the group so they have it via email.
Well, if you don't mind, why don't you send mine and Ann's, just because,
Okay.
and Ann would be good for specific safety questions, like the questions about what does the training mean? Because she's head of all the training. Any kind of registration questions about, does this person have to register? Send those to me. If you got a technical question, send them to me and I'll shoot them to Steve and his IT team. Sorry, Ann. You should have
That's
let
all
me
right.
just finish.
You're gonna have to, I usually turn those around like the same day, but my email was given out to what, 450 trainers from the Mid-Atlantic region the other day. So I might take a day to get back to you, but I will, I promise.
Nice try, Ann.
That's true.
All right. So thank you all again. We really do appreciate it. And let us know if you have any more questions and we'll try to track them down.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
everybody.
you.
I'll
Thank
send
you.
those documents to you right away, Gary.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
thanks everybody.